I've been in sales for about 7 months now, and I feel like I've been really good at, refining my discovery process and, asking the right questions and making sure that, I'm getting everything that I possibly can out of a specific lead or a prospect. Beforehand, I had a basic script of what I wanted to say as an introduction. I had discovery questions, qualifying questions that I wanted to ask, and just a basic foundation of topics that I wanted to hit within the conversation. And I feel like it was blocking me creatively by, me having to feel as if I had to ask those questions. What do you guys typically have in front of your face when you're conducting, let's say, a discovery call or a qualifying call with a high value prospect?
I just have a list of bullets for things that I need. It might even help to have printouts or like a notepad. If you just have the list of minimum criteria, don't try and get too much on the first phone call, in my opinion, unless they're really talking your head off. As long as you can get that, you should be good. I mean, try to keep it as simple as you can.
How many times have you practiced role plays, like drills with somebody that's not your prospect?
I don't ever practice. I've this has been brought up by, our sales director, but I don't think I've ever taken the actionable steps to like have role-playing calls with them or with him.
Such a big thing, man. Like, think about any professional athlete. Like, I'm not into sports at all. Like, imagine them trying to step out on the field, never having like gone through batting practice. That would be crazy. You have to do it in a controlled environment and get used to it. That's just such an interesting thing about sales is every other profession you have to like pass a certification and like go through these classes and know what you're doing. With sales, they're like, here's 2 weeks of training and get on the fucking phone. Right? That's how it almost always works. But you have to take a step back and do it over and over. Like Brian Greenfader, him, Reid, and you probably know him too, Again. I sat in a room with him and ran our talk track at least 300 times in his first 2 months. Like 4 to 5 times a day, sometimes 10. Just over and over. We locked ourselves in the snook and just over and over did it. And like by the time he was getting on his larger calls, he was completely smooth and ready to go.
Something I was going to ask was, for your calls, it helps to have them as structured as possible. They're obviously, every call is going to be different. Everyone has different needs and, they're coming from a different place. But if you can keep as much of the call the same each time at the beginning, say, and at the end, then you can practice those parts. Then you can just set that agenda up front. And then if you do get off the path, at the end of the day, you can just be like, look, I had some housekeeping questions. You mind if we quick answer those and then we can keep talking about this, that, or the other? But I think the structure really helps, especially at the beginning, because they're not going to be surprised if you say, hey, could we actually get back on track and talk about what I was, mentioned at the beginning was the end goal or the agenda.
I have this thing that I use. It's just like a checklist. I'll just show you real quick. Where like I have 1 or 2 or 3 words that relate to what I want to ask, but it's not necessarily the actual question. So it reminds me like I need to cover that thing, but I can come up with it naturally. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be in this order, but then I'll check them off as I do them. And then if I'm getting near the end of the conversation, I don't have like plus marks next to everything. I'm like, okay, there is something I need to ask. And then you can use like the pivot line that Nick was talking about. Like, yeah, I love talking about this, but I have this really dry question for you. Mind if I ask you real quick? Something like that. And then you can check it off.
Yeah, I like that a lot.